some reverb on that.
Do I?
Talking spatial.
You just did it because I hit record. I hit record. So we're that's Linda over. Hang on. I'll get this right. No, that's Linda over there.
If I mind, you're over there.
Hi, Linda. Yeah, well, it's backwards, so I'm pointing the wrong way to point to you.
I
That's
see.
Linda, and I can point
George
to me.
Harrison says hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Imagine all the people. Oh, that is the wrong guy. Never
It's
mind.
the wrong guy.
His guitar
I didn't
gently
like
weeps.
that poster. I like that one.
His guitar. It's all about his guitar and weeping.
I made an art dealer very annoyed because I only wanted that one. It's a Richard Avedon print, and he did
You
four.
wanted all. He wanted to sell you all
Well,
four.
they come as a set. I didn't want the set. And it was very expensive for the set. I just wanted this one, so he broke up the set for me. I had to pay extra for that, but I didn't want all four. I just wanted George, just because I
Okay.
like the colors.
Well, it's fine.
Hello.
I like the art that's behind me. I've had several pieces from Stefan Dufault on our wall,
All
and
right.
he's freaking amazing.
These
And
two I got in Hanoi. They're
you got
prints
cool
from
stuff, man.
Hanoi. They are $3 on the street in Hanoi, but I love
Has
them.
talking spatial turned into talking art? Are we talking
Yeah,
art
no,
now?
they're all
I mean, we
connected.
could do that. That's fine. I'm all
To
for it.
me, it's all art. It's all connected.
Oh, okay. Am I? That got me a little bit, like right here. Um,
Moment of yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I get it. So that's Linda. I'm Sean, and we're talking special, and we're this week on Talking Special, which is technically episode 1, even though last week we did record, but we never really released it, and I'm still trying to get clearance from Linda to allow me to
It's
to turn it
fine.
public, just because she didn't do it.
I thought the advantage of doing a podcast was I could sit there looking like I just rolled out of bed.
You literally said you wanted to do video. You literally said that.
Did I say that?
You
Oh,
did say it.
I don't like being on video. It's all right.
But you're really good
we
at
can
it.
release it. Let's release it. I
We're
look like
really good at it, and we're going to get you comfortable with it
that's
because
fine.
video is a very strong component in the whole virtual reality space.
It's
So,
fine.
and then eventually we'll get into like broadcasting while we're in VR doing something
That'd
cool.
be nice.
And that way we both have headsets on and you don't really have to worry as much about.
I can make you an avatar.
I would love an avatar. I'll take one. Right now I'm
I'm learning how to do that. I'm learning how to take some of the weird creations I made in medium VR, which
yeah.
is sculpting, which I love. There's some kind of weird ones, and I'm having fun with it. It's my own little garden of earthly delights, weird shit, basically.
Okay.
And you can turn them into avatars. So I've had some serious avatar envy with some of the meetups I've been to, and I thought I was kind of cool and hip with my avatar. And then I walk in, and it was like I was the middle aged lady driving a Volvo. And so I want to take some of the stuff I've made in Media VR and turn it into actual avatars, which I now have read up on how to do that. So I'm going to do that. Not quite sure how to do the ones with 3 legs versus 2, but okay.
Okay, so you're doing animation and everything. Like I apologize for there's a greyhound in the background.
That's fine. I'm learning. I'm always learning, but I've been doing lots of different things for many years, and there's a lot of overlap, but you're still every time it's new. So I'm having so much fun with that. That's my happy time zones out place,
And what are you using to create all that stuff now that we're going down this rabbit hole?
Oh God. I mean, so Medium is the creation tool because I really love it. The sculpting, the organic sculpting. I have a background in doing more traditional CAD with Rhino for, I don't know, over a decade now. I love Rhino, but it's very precise. Like this is, you can go, ooh, and you can make weird things with 3 legs and 2 heads and, all that stuff. And I found out that I really like sculpting faces, which is something new I didn't know about because I'd never done it before. But you can use that, and then I'm Blender. So I'm learning how to use Blender, which has been really fun. So,
is there a place for Max? Is there a place for 3ds Max in that world, or is most of the avatar creation out there being done with Blender?
No, I think there's many. Every time I turn around, I hear about a new program and a new this and a new that. There's so many.
Okay.
but I don't think so. I think you need to rig it. You need to, build a skeleton that knows where to bend and all that stuff.
Right, right.
And so Blender, you can do all of that. I just don't quite know how to yet. I've watched people, Bay
Yeah.
Ray, who was a big time animator guy from Weta. He's a really great guy, and he's on Facebook, and he has, he hosts his videos where you can watch him doing it. I just sit there and watch his videos. It's honestly, it's so much fun for me to just sit there and watch him make a bulldog and rig it and, color it and all that stuff. So that's what I really want to spend my time doing. Just, being an artist like that is so much fun, but I give myself tasks because otherwise nothing would ever get done. I have to figure it out. So the angst of how do I do this? Oh hell, there goes 4 hours of my life while I watch YouTube videos and try to figure it out. I love that. So that's me trying to figure out how to do this. So I will figure it out and it will happen.
I'm sure you will.
And
So
then I'll have to
what
figure it
was
out.
the name of the artist that you're watching? Because I want to make sure.
Bay Rate, Raitt. He designed Gollum from Weta. He's a nice guy. He's on Facebook. He has a couple groups. And he also does, at least we had a couple speed sculpting sessions with a bunch of really good professional artists, and I joined in. Oops. Where, you all speed sculpt in VR and you share your screen and you can see what the other people are doing. And it was really fun. I was watching all these amazing artists. I was like, what the hell? I'll join in. So there was me,
And you slowed down you slowed down the speed.
no,
Right?
you can watch. It's like Brady Bunch, like Zoom, but with VR, like different. You can watch other people doing their stuff in VR. It's sculpting.
Oh, that's cool.
It is really fun.
Yeah,
So
that's really cool.
they used to do that. I haven't seen that in a while, but you can watch him sculpt, and you can watch. He was rigging a bulldog in Blender, and somebody else was making spaceships in Medium, and another person was doing something in somewhere else. It was so much fun, just to watch.
I'm all in. I'm all in. Like right now, my I'm getting everything reset up in Quest 2 because I had the Rift S was my daily driver for a long time. Before that, I had we had a bunch of CV1 Rifts through Nemesis, and I still have a CV1. If anyone wants one, I'll make you a hell of a deal. It's literally just.
I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of Oculus Quests on the market too.
There will be.
Yes.
There will be. Quest 2 is pretty darn astounding.
I know, but there are issues. The issues, and that's what's going to slow.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it'll slow it down some, but Facebook is gotten to a point where they're pumping so much money behind standalone, behind the.
Oh, I agree.
Tethered.
And I also agree that people will roll over and give up and be like, yeah, the benefits of it for me personally outweigh the biometric. I'm not sure people always understand the implications of the sharing of the privacy of the biometric stuff, but
some do, some don't. Some do. Like I understand it, but
right.
I also know that with what I do for a living and what I have done for a living and the social engagement and involvement that I've been running down the path of since writing for magazines and doing the journalism side of things, whether it's actually just writing or whether it's actually specifically creating content for social media, where I'm literally like I'm all over Facebook and I'm all over Instagram.
All roads lead back to Facebook for me too.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, if there was another platform that was viable, obviously I'd explore it. But Facebook gives you the most bang for the buck, and with their latest algorithms, I mean, they're taking more of your bucks, but still, I mean,
I think people's issue isn't only the privacy stuff. It's also that in case your account is compromised and you get kicked off Facebook, you lose access to all the things you bought. You lose access to VR if your account is for whatever reason shut down. And I know that it does seem to happen rather randomly. I have not been put into the Facebook, Saturday detention myself. I know plenty of people who are constantly, but it's up to the whim more or less of Facebook, whether you are, you keep the content you've bought and whether you're allowed to use VR. So that's, I think, what a lot of people are going like, wait a second, once I bought it, it's still mine. Why can't I use it? But if your account is shut down or if you quit your account, it's gone.
Yeah, it's a little weird. That aspect of it is definitely a little weird. And the locking of accounts that we've seen with the Oculus 2, like literally people are having their accounts locked down
Yeah.
for various reasons because they're just trying to get onto the service.
Yeah.
And
The appeals
Facebook,
process is opaque and,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, it's
so
always been really hard to
that
get in touch
randomness,
with.
I think. I think it's that randomness that is, at least the people I've talked to, that, I think ultimately we all understand you trade some data for, my other half's going to get on my case about that because he's a real privacy nut. But you trade some data for, access and usage. And if they're providing a service that is useful and great and wonderful, and that's, the price you pay. But it's the lack of being able to own the content. You don't own it,
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah, it's bothering me right now. Like I have several things that I purchased over the years
yeah,
for CV1 and Rift S
right,
that they work fine on my Rift S, but they don't port to Quest 2, which
right.
I think is insane. Like literally Beat Saber. I love Beat Saber.
That they gotta launch that. Well, no, I come to think of
It
it, there's
doesn't
a couple
port.
programs. Yeah,
It doesn't it not only does it not port, you can't go in and say, I bought this already.
right,
Let me
exactly.
download it from my Quest. I already have it on Rift. Let
Right.
me let
There's a
me put
couple programs like that. I mean, so have you tried, can you side load it, and can you use Revive, and can you do all those workarounds that people are using for a bunch of
had
other?
I bought it in Steam, I would be fine because
All
I would
right.
literally be on virtual desktop just using my
Right.
Quest 2
Right.
with Steam on virtual desktop or with the link cable.
Right.
But I bought it through the Oculus store. And
Wow.
that's
That's
the
amazing, isn't
issue.
it?
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's if you buy it through the Oculus store, it's locked to
That's amazing.
either a tethered or an untethered experience. But if you bought
Yeah.
it through Steam,
Right. So then buy
you
through
can
Steam. Buy a piece
exactly.
of
But I
Steam. Yeah.
didn't. I didn't, and I bought it a year and a half ago when Quest 2
Yeah.
was a twinkle in the eye of Mr. Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
And it's 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 interesting. It really is. It's interesting in that I'm a firm believer that if I have a bowling game that's a hell of a lot of fun.
Right.
I'd love to be able to play it untethered because
Right.
trying to
Of
bowl with the
course.
tether down, like you even if you have the cable on the other side of your body, somehow I still manage to get
Right.
tangled up in
I
the
can
damn thing.
imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's that, and there's a bunch of other stuff that I'd like to be able to just load up on the Quest 2 that I've already purchased that I can't do.
Well, yeah, you should have your own, like every other piece of software in the world. I mean, God knows how many times I've reinstalled software the last few weeks, but I have the serial numbers, or, because I bought
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Right? And they never go, oh, you've installed it 5 times the last 2 weeks yet. I keep expecting somebody to go, wait a second. No, really, I keep
right,
reinstalling my OS.
right. Yeah, I mean, I if it were outside the Oculus ecosystem, if I was upset that I had originally bought Beat Saber on the Oculus store and now I can't play it on my Reverb
Right.
or on my Index, um, which I don't have either of, but I will be getting a Reverb too because that has to happen. Um, but if it were outside the ecosystem, I could completely and totally understand it. But it's inside. Like I want to use that on another Oculus device.
Of course.
Come on now. I mean,
I
it's
think it has something to do with the programming too. It's not like they're. I think it's the engineering side it's a different program in some ways, but I get it. I totally agree. Hey, so you mentioned Blortasia before we started. I
I
had that
did.
with Blortasia. So I bought Blortasia on Steam a couple years ago with an HTC Vive, and I have it. I can run it now, via that, because I
Yeah.
refuse. But it's the same. It's not the same experience. It's different when you try to do all the workarounds. It just doesn't work the same. And I love that. I love Flirtasia.
You like I mean it's okay, so we're gonna completely shift gears and go to it because we talked about basically talking about some mindfulness software that's available in the VR space right now before we
Is
actually
that
hit
what it's supposed to be? I
record.
just think it's
I
freaky. I love it.
I think it is. I think it does it not calm you? Like when if you spend a certain amount of time in there, it's almost
I
meditative to me.
find it fascinating, just so beautiful. Just so beautiful. I don't know if anybody knows, if anybody's listening and they want to know Blortasia. I just love saying
Give the overview because it's amazing.
Blortasia. I just love saying that. The artist is Kevin Mack, who is an amazingly creative guy. Blortasia is, the best I can describe it is, it's an organic series of tubes that you float through, and they are slowly undulating and changing shape as you're in there, but very slowly, so it doesn't disorient you. And the surfaces are all covered with like paint splotches that are doing the same thing. So it's this constant, like very slow, colorful, psychedelic. And then you're in this tube and you're flying around, and you can go out of the tube and go to the outside, and it's this, you know, huge, beautifully organically tubular structure that is slowly moving and changing shape and morphing. And it's just the most, I think, honestly, I have never done mushrooms, but I have been told it is as close to doing mushrooms. And actually, the first comment when I asked people was, they're like, "You've never done mushrooms?" No, I've never done mushrooms, but it is just the most beautiful, hypnotic, truly beautiful experience. I can't say other than just beautiful for me. I mean, yes, you're
It's
right.
amazing.
I hadn't thought of it as a mindfulness thing, because I mean, and then the engineer part of me is trying to figure out how they're doing these randomly generated, you know, colors, and how is that, how is he programming that? How is he doing that? But it's just beautiful. It's just, it's
And
never lost its magic for me.
for everyone listening, if that doesn't scream altered states, isolation chamber,
Yeah, it does, I guess.
I mean, to me, when I look at Blortasia, and you turned me on to it, I don't know how long ago you
I
turned me on to
love,
it, and I do
I've been
pop in there every
singing
once in a while.
praises. I just love it. I just absolutely just love it. Is it calming? I guess so. I hadn't thought
How could
about
it
it.
not be?
I
I,
didn't think about it like that. I just, yeah, it's just gorgeous. It's just
every
beautiful.
time you jump in there, are you literally like, are you seeing the entire world in polygons and crunching math in your head trying to figure
Have,
out the
I
the
have,
algorithm? Or
I am a left right brain person, and both sides are always going. It's like a debit and a credit column sheet. Both, both.
okay.
I mean, I'm looking at it and I just like, it's just so beautiful. And at the same time, all I can do is to, how did he do? I just want to know, how did he do this? It's obviously some sort of fractal
I was
algorithm.
going to say, so like you jump into fractal programs and just watch them
It just,
forever,
yeah,
don't
I've
you?
always
Yeah.
lived repetitive patterns, and I've always made repetitive. I mean, this is my thing. So I just, for me, it taps into something really, you know, primal and basic for me, but it must be for other people too. Like I said,
Um,
everybody says it's just like doing mushrooms. So now I don't have to do mushrooms because I have these.
Actually, I've done mushrooms twice. And,
Okay.
once was I didn't know, like someone
Oh,
literally was like, "Here, eat this pizza,"
no,
and I
oh,
did, and
no,
that's not cool. Don't ever do
no,
that
that
to
is
anyone.
not cool.
The second time, I literally like I don't. There was no colors or anything crazy.
Really?
We literally just stayed up all damn night, and everything was funny.
Oh,
Everything was funny, and beer was literally water. Um, Now this happened half my life ago.
right,
But I don't remember anything, like there were no like the when I grabbed a door handle, it didn't melt in my hand, and
right.
I didn't
I
get
get this
sucked
with
into a
psychedelics.
wall or anything. But
Heavy psychedelics that I've never done any of them. I've never done any drugs ever. I'm completely square.
I'm seriously like the whole microdosing thing. I I
That
would I
I,
would jump into
I
that.
would actually like to try that. The only thing is I don't know where to get LSD
I
and
don't either. I don't
dosages,
either,
and
and
I don't
I
have a
would
donor
I
that
would
I
jump in on
trust.
that in a
So, you know,
heartbeat. Can you imagine? Like I would like to try that in Blortasia. Like I would. I think that would be like I jump in Blortasia and I try to turn off the math brain. Try to turn
yeah,
off the I used to own software companies brain
right, right, right.
and just sit there and just be.
Isn't it beautiful? It's
It's
just
cool. It's really
so
cool. Like
beautiful.
I'm doing everything in my power these days. I turned 50 in August, and I don't know what it is, man. I've literally like I've stopped. Okay, I haven't stopped stressing, but I'm really trying to. And
Maybe I just
I'm
don't stress that. I think all those nerve endings got burned out so many years ago. I don't stress anymore. I'm like, whatever.
trying
Uh,
to feel the same way. And
ah,
stuff like Blortasia really helps me with that. Like I literally will hop in
it's
there and just
mesmerizing.
I
Agreed.
set the controllers down and I just
Right.
float.
So it's kind of, in a
And
way, I was just thinking, it's almost like being inside a lava lamp.
yeah, yeah, that's a
Have
great way
that
to put it.
same loopy, morphing organic shapes floating around, except you're in the
Holy
middle of it and
crap.
they're all have moving colors. And it's just,
That's your project. That's your mission, if you choose to accept it, is VR lava lamp. That would, how cool would that be? Actually being able to see the lava lamp from inside. That
when I
it's
was a
kind of is
little
Blortasia.
girl, I had a lava lamp next to my bed. And oh my God, every single night I would sit and watch those shapes. And I think maybe that's what Blortasia reminds me of in a
Yeah.
way.
My grandparents on my mom's side, every time we used to go out to Kansas to visit them, they had a lava lamp. It was like the proper 60s
Yeah, yeah.
gold anodized base with the weird shaped, and it had the gold anodized on the top, and the gold anodized
I don't
base had some
remember
little
the
holes in it.
no. I just remember the bubbles. I loved it. Mine was aqua kind of colored wax, I guess. I
Theirs
just
was
liked it.
red.
Wonderful. Yeah, it was
Theirs
beautiful.
was red.
Anyway,
And she also
Blortasia,
had, do what?
I think Blortasia, I have said this before, for me, Blortasia represents one of the only experiences I think I've had in VR that feels like it was made specifically for VR. It wasn't taking another idea and translating it. And there's some experiences that are obviously made for VR. I'm not saying there aren't. It's just it's like a next generation of experiences that you can't do anywhere else, and that it's a VR experience, like a pure VR experience, because you couldn't do that anywhere else. Even taking a screenshot of it does not translate at all.
No,
Um,
it doesn't. If we could put it up here 2D
Oh
and
yeah, if
show
you have
people, and it'd be like, okay, well, those are just kind of like
got a screenshot,
blobs floating around. And
it doesn't. The magic of standing in the middle of that does not translate to 2D at
right.
all. And I feel like it's one of the few experiences I've had, or the top one, obviously the one I'm talking about it, where it feels like this is a concept. You know how they said, so when theater existed and then TV came on, or then radio came on, and they were trying to translate, and they had, it was like you're sitting in the theater, and then they tried to recreate that with the new medium. Like the new medium always tries to take the old medium and just adapt it. And then eventually people start to figure out, how do you make experiences that are specific to this medium, right? What its special sauce, what can it do?
Right.
And first it was a stage, and then the stage went to television, and then they had the fixed camera angle, which is like theater, like you're filming. And then they started making multiple cameras and multiple tracks. Like it developed. And I feel like the Blortasian VR is one of the very experiences that I've had there, that you feel like it didn't start with something in regular world that already existed and tried to make it in VR. It's I know a lot of people are working on creating experiences in VR, and there's tons of great stuff out there. I mean, have you seen Dear Angelica? I mean, that is spectacularly beautiful. But it's like he didn't take anything and make it new. He made something specifically just that takes advantage of what VR is great at. That immersive existence of it. Um,
Yeah, and we're seeing that. We're seeing that in other titles that are coming out now. There's a
I
lot of,
think,
and
yeah,
yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's coming out along those lines. And I jumped into one beginning of this week, actually, just to try out the demo, just because I'm not trying to get all, like hippie patchouli stick crazy, but I'm literally like, I'm trying to meditate. I'm trying to be mindful of being here right now. And I think part of it is because, launching a business during COVID and doing
uh,
everything that we do on a daily basis, and the world shut down, everybody's so stressed. I've seen nothing, and I know you're experiencing this. Everyone experiences this. If you're human, you experience this. As you get older, time feels like, even though time is something that we just pulled out of our ass, and it's a human construct, basically. Like there's nothing else perceives
measurement of
time
it
the way
is.
we do.
Measurement of it is, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, the
Yeah,
measurement of it. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously time is a thing. There's a
right.
linearity to it,
But
but
is it linear? That's a whole other
well,
podcast.
that's a whole other question. But as we get older as humans, we perceive things just happening so much faster, and I'm trying
Yeah.
to just be here. I'm literally trying to stop worrying about things that are happening that I don't have control over,
Oh,
and
yeah,
it
no, I
might be
do that.
happening 3 years from now. Like it,
Oh, I don't do that either. I don't
I
worry
try
about
not to. I try not to, but I really do. Like I really think about, and sometimes when you're putting together a 5 year pro forma
it. Right.
to try to go out and talk to some venture capitalists, well, you kind of have to think that far out. But
Absolutely. And I think, I mean, that's a different kind of thinking though. I think if you think about your personal life and your professional, I mean, for a business, you have to do a spreadsheet that, forecasts best, middle, and least scenario and all that crap you have to do for VCs. I totally get that. Um, I mean, hey, it's a good segue if you don't mind me.
oh no,
In
segue away. I'll come back to
2
trade because we're
weeks,
going to talk about that.
2 weeks, yay. I'm supposed to be doing a speech at Facebook on the future of VR, 5 to 10 years out. They want to talk about the impact it's going to have. So, I should get working on that. Don't
Yeah,
tell Facebook I said that.
yeah, you probably
Um,
should.
yeah, I probably should. So Thanksgiving in between or anything. Okay, I left it too long. I've been thinking about it, obviously. I think before I do anything. So that's where I'm going to stick with that. But to be able to have the opportunity to actually freeform think about what are the, all the vector, I call it vector analysis, all the vector analysis that are relevant to that are going to be happening, and how is that going to converge in 5 to 10 years in terms of an impact of something is really fun. I think it's fun. And I think, you got to take humans into account, human nature. You got to take macro trends into account. You got to take technology into account. You got to take the aging of the population into account. There's like a whole population shift, climate change. So that's what I'm going to lay on their plate and really in 2 weeks, which is that's what they want me to do. So I was
That's
like,
fairly hardcore.
it's
And
kind of
and
fun.
how much time do you have to condense that down into? Because that is a heavy topic with so many branches on that tree that are
I
possible.
know. I think
Um,
it's they didn't give me a time yet. We've been we've been chatting since the spring, and then they said because of COVID, they're like, can you hold off to the fall? So we did.
gotcha.
I think it's probably about 45 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just condense the next 5 years of technological advancement in PCs, GPUs, CPUs, RAM,
Oh,
VR,
batteries
XR,
included.
AR. Just condense it all in 45 minutes. It'll be fine.
I'm gonna talk. I talk about, generally speaking. And where I think where my head goes is thinking about the impact on people, and how people then react, and then how people then change their behaviors, and so it's not about the technology, it's not about the
Okay.
how it works, it's not an engineering, like how does it work. I think there's a bunch of trends within technology, VR and immersive technology and spatial computing being one of them, the fact that we can do it technologically speaking, but how does that then impact on how we interact, on how we live our daily lives, on how businesses have to work to meet where people are, so it's more about, I call it's the impact, it's vector analysis for me. It's what I call it, vector analysis around all these mega trends and smaller things, and then marry that with, human nature, and then marry that with external factors like climate change and how that's going to affect society. Yeah, it's a little subject, it's nothing really. um
It's
as
just a
I'm
little
talking,
trivial thing
two
that
weeks
has the ability to completely change the way all of us live. No big deal.
And how much of that will be accepted, and how much of that will be pushback, and how much of them people will go back to communities and pods of people who are Luddites because they reject all technology, and tribalism, which we've already seen a huge increase in because technology is changing so quickly that people can't adjust so quickly, and they won't go back to what they're comfortable with, which is the way they were raised, and pods, communities, physical communities going away, social communities online coming together. I mean, there's a whole, all of that, so that's, I got to write it. I really should get on that.
I mean, the you're talking about the acceptance of the general population to the technology that's coming our way,
So
whether
I
we want
have
it
a
to or not.
feeling,
That's
yeah,
a cool.
but it's not just that, it's the amount of information. For me, I think a lot of this is my pet theory, but I was saying this to somebody the other day. For me, the fact that so much of humanity is going back towards tribalism, right? We're going back to embracing authoritarianism. Why is that? Why do we see authoritarianism on the rise all over the globe, right? It's not just in the US. Um, and for me, the answer is it's because, I think it's complicated, but I think it's because as humans, like we are being fed information from a fire hose these days, right? It's just
Mhm.
constant assault, change, and noise and messages. And you go, too much, too much. I'm just going to,
Yeah.
I know what I know. And what I know is what I was basically pretty much raised with, your attitudes. And the communities we used to have as towns that kept us, socialized, they're gone, a lot of them. So it's more about people saying, I want to just outsource thinking about all this stuff because it's too much. And so strong figures in the political government do that. We can just trust them. We don't have to think. It's like almost like what a brand is. A brand is a shortcut to decision making. So you don't have to think about everything every time you buy something. You reach for a brand, I know that Dove works for me. I don't have to think about looking at all the different kinds of soaps out there and make that decision every single time, right? It's a shortcut. And I kind of think an authoritarian figure is a shortcut to going, I can't deal with all of this. I trust this person, let them just take care of it. They're going to take care of it. I don't have to think about it. Right. So, why did I start this? Anyway, these are pet theories of mine. You're getting me to talk about them. But
Sometimes even if we don't trust him, we
it doesn't
still
matter. It's just,
we're still like, hey, you're the lesser of whatever evils are out
it's
there.
like, you know what?
And
I don't have time to think about every single thing. And we have such an assault on our senses in terms of information, messages, and humans weren't made for this. We moved at a much slower pace until the last 0.0000001% of human history. And all of a sudden now it's like, all this stuff
right,
coming at you all the time.
right.
So people retrench. And when they retrench, they go back to what they know and what they're comfortable with. They hang out with what they know. And so I think tribalism is it might not be physical tribalism, or it might be that people start living in communities where they're like, this is our wall, and this is what we believe in, and this is what we're going to do. So is that, and I think technology is part of that, and it's an
Is that
assault.
wall physical or virtual?
Could be both.
Yeah,
Could be
and
both.
that's kind of that's one of the cool things about the whole XR tech realm is opening up the humanity to being more of a global tribe. I think.
I love that. I mean, and I
I,
probably, yeah, no, I talked about that I think it was the TED talk I did. About how, it was about how grassroots movements are going to really benefit from VR because you can find your tribe
yeah,
anywhere, right? You don't have to randomly try in your small community to get a few people who might care about the same thing as you, and then the message slowly starts to spread. With VR, you can be anywhere in the world and you can reach people with that message anyway, especially with artificial intelligence getting to the point where it can real time translate languages, so you don't even have to worry about the fact you don't speak
right.
Chinese. You can speak to a Chinese person because it'll translate it for you, and all of a sudden you can find your communities virtually because people who care about what you care are all over the world, right? And it doesn't
That's
have to
yeah,
organically
that's
grow
amazing.
physically,
It's
right?
being able to translate language. I think is
It's great, huh?
yeah, it is it
It's going to be interesting because it isn't
possibly
just the
maybe a bigger
words.
game changer than the actual XR tech.
I,
Being able to communicate with people all over the world. Like I used Google, it was Google Translate the
yeah,
last time I was in Germany.
yeah,
I was there. My wife was not with me. My wife is fluent in German. I, on
right,
the other hand, can say Volkswagen.
right.
Um,
Coffee.
but yeah, yeah, I can definitely say schnitzel.
Oh, schnitzel's a
Yeah,
good word. It's a good word to know.
it's a very good word to know, especially when you're there. But I like was using Google Translate, and it was so cool to see
Yeah,
like other cultures when you just make an effort to try
I know.
their language, people light up, especially. And some people might not like this, but Americans aren't really looked at as amazing people in a lot of different cultures. We're the oppressor basically. So as an American, if you go to a foreign country, and even if you're not part of that, that whatever the zeitgeist is that gets us that reputation, even if
Right.
you're not part of that, if you go to a foreign country, try to speak that language, whether it's just a couple words or not. And
Yeah,
Google Translate,
it's very
literally,
helpful.
like walking into restaurants and pulling up, I would
Yeah,
like a whatever, and then just trying. It got people, and
yeah.
the crazy thing is, 98% of those people that I was trying to speak German to
To
speak
speak
better
English.
English than I
Yeah,
do.
I know. I know. I did. I
But you
used
just
I used it in Vietnam
Oh
because
my
it's a
God, that'd be
really
amazing.
completely different language, and it was so much fun. And I mean, the amount of laughing that it creates in a good way, like with
Yeah.
some this connection of you're trying, and I learned a few words, a very few words of Vietnamese when I was there, just basically to say thank you and please and whatever.
Mhm.
And I was getting slaps on the back from old grandmothers, like, "Oh, that's fantastic! Here, when they give me an extra cup of tea or
Yeah.
whatever." It was so much fun. But yeah, that actually saved my ass because I had a migraine in Vietnam, and how do you say migraine in Vietnamese?
Right.
So you go with Google Translate. I went to the pharmacist and I held up the screen, and she's like, "Oh, yeah,
Yeah. It's technology in that way has the ability to bring us
isn't it amazing?"
together.
So
Yeah.
I was at CES and there was a company and I wanted to get one and I didn't get it. They have instant translators that you wear and that actually translate,
Mhm.
apparently, they say. And I know that Google Translate just launched the ability to translate from one language directly to the other. Apparently, they were going through English. So you translate to English and English back out. And of course, that's like whisper down the lane. So yeah, to go from that language to that language, not with English in between. So
Does it translate like the biggest thing that I've found, and this was several years ago that I tried this. It's been 3 or 4 years. Um, does it also get your sentence structure correct for
I
the
don't know. I don't know how it
see,
does that. I
that's
don't
the
know how
hard
it
thing
does that. Yeah,
is
and
moving your verbs and nouns and adjectives
I
around and
did,
your tenses and all that
I
stuff.
translated a
That's
book once from Dutch into English, and it's like the first half of the sentence and the second half of the sentence are directly opposite each other,
right.
swaps. You have to wait for the second half till you can actually get to the first half of English. So I don't know. I've always wondered that how they did
Yeah.
that real time. But translators do it at the UN. They're half a second later and they
Right.
listen. So I don't know. I think the hardest thing to translate in culture is the inherent, what is it, I don't know the word, like when there's implicit things that aren't said that you just understand that are different in different cultures,
That
the
and
context.
physical mannerisms, like
Yeah,
physical things that are totally acceptable in one country that are absolutely 100% unacceptable in other countries,
yeah,
whether it be a personal space thing or just the way that you interact with each other. Like it's the cultural differences there. If there was a
yeah.
way that you could just basically, on the plane heading to Japan,
Oh, that'd be
or
hard.
basically just be able to go, okay, how do I, when I say hello, what do I need to do? Like,
Yeah,
how do you interact? Like, don't
look
shake
somebody in the
hands.
eye, don't look somebody in the eye, all that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, all of that stuff is it's stuff that tech and, we're obviously we're talking spatial, but I think even in this spatial environment, if we want to link that back around to what this show's all
Great.
about, how in the world do we,
Train.
as avatars
Yeah,
progress and become more and more humanoid, if I'm interacting with someone from Japan or Germany or the Middle East or whatever,
yeah,
the mannerisms are eventually going to be part of that. And you have this ingrained, this is how we interact with each other in every
yeah.
society. And then all of a sudden we're throwing that into a virtual space where I can be in Iran now.
Yeah, it's true.
But how
And
do,
I also think it's a great opportunity for a business, Mr.
oh,
Sean.
it's huge.
Training people to, well, training people to interact culturally. You can actually show them and sit with them. That's a good business idea. We should do that.
Yeah, this is a very good idea, actually.
Do that.
Um,
I went to grad school in Europe, right? I mean, I'm half Dutch, but and I grew up in Europe, so I wasn't a complete, never been out of the country person, but I went to grad school in Holland. We had a class of about 105 people. I was one of 3 Americans.
wow.
So I'm half Dutch, so I was like a mutt, but and everybody else, it was like Noah's Ark. We had like 2 and 3 from every country. So, and it was all based on group work. And so there was some fine situations that happened a few times with people from other countries. And this is a funny story. I had a guy in grad school and he was a bit of a dork and nobody really liked him. He's one of those. His nickname was Goofy. He didn't know this. It was really mean, but it was true. He was goofy and he was kind of clueless. And he went on exchange. He was from Belgium. He went on exchange to a school, I believe, in Texas, for a semester. Came back, And I really didn't want to talk to this guy, but he just insisted he had to tell me. He had to tell me all about it. I was like, shit, I got stuck on a bus with him going somewhere once. I was like, fuck, I gotta listen to this guy talk about this for like half an hour. And what he said to me was, and it made me go, what? He said, all the girls, I'm going to say this, were horny. And I'm looking at him like, I'm like, no, they weren't. And he says, no, they were all hitting on me all the time. And I was like, I don't think so. It turns out they were just saying hello to him and being friendly in a certain way and saying like, and he took that as, because it was way too soon for a European to be that friendly. Felt like
Okay.
interest, but he walked around the entire semester thinking all these girls were totally hot for him. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, no, they really weren't. But I didn't know what to say to him because I was like, no.
Do I just totally devastate? I mean, would that even devastate him, or would he have gone, "Oh my God, thank you for telling me that. I had absolutely no idea."
The way Americans are very friendly. We say things that feel personal to other cultures. Very, when you say how are you doing, like they don't say that so quickly, and so they take it genuine interest. Well, how am I doing? Well, actually, today I had great day. It's not a formality. And he didn't pick up on that, and he really thought every girl in Texas was trying to sleep with him. And I'm like, trust me, they were not. And I think that was the last time I managed to not get away from talking to him because he insisted.
Oh my God, that's crazy. But yeah, that goes back around to how do we blend that when, that was a personal interaction. That's not even it doesn't have that barrier or that layer between you.
No, but if I'm an avatar and I can meet him in alt space or something, and I go, hey, how are you? Nice to meet you, blah, blah. And I start being more familiar, then, one of the teachers we had in grad school is a great guy. His name is Fons, F-O-N-S, Trompenaar. He's very famous for cultural studies. And he has all these models of cultural interaction. And what he did was he had all these models. They were based on like circles. And he would say like the American culture is there's 3 circles. The middle circle is really big. We live now, right? And the future is very small, and it might not even be touching that big circle. And the back circle is way back here, and it's very small. And it's not touching. Whereas an Italian has 3 equal circles and they're all intersecting very closely. And he managed to come up with a way to map, because he did, all these are based on research and he did across, the globe with lots of interviews and more quantitative ways to do this. But he had a very interesting way of looking at, of mapping out how cultures interacted. And it's past, present, future. And if you look at all the different cultures that we did, we had Japan, we had Holland, we had Belgium, we had France, he had the whole world basically mapped out of how, as an American, I was raised by a foreigner and I grew up half in a foreign country. So I'm kind of a mutt. But like most Americans, if you look at the American model, it's a very big current circle. Like we live now. Now is very important. The future is very small, and it may just be out here. And the past is tiny and back here. Like we don't think about the past that much. Whereas in Italy, it's like, it's all 3 circles completely vend almost. And that's because we live now, we live in future. Like the history is part of today, as part of like, it's all, and how you see those circles and how you visualize today, the past, present, and future is a huge impact on how you interact. Right. Yeah. It was really interesting. I should find
I want to see those diagrams.
It was cool. There were 7 of them, the 7 dimensions of culture, I think he called it. And
That's
he had to do with time orientation to personal space. And if you look at the German, like this is another model, but for the German circle, friends, acquaintances, business colleagues, like he has circles for that. Like friends is a very small circle with a very thick outside circle. It's really hard to get in there. But the acquaintance circle is thinner and it's very close to that. Like you can go on the inside, but it takes a while, but then you can be on the inside. Whereas the Americans are like, they consider a lot of people friends, and it's very easy to get in, it's easy to get out. That's why we're so familiar easily with people. Whereas the Germans, if you've lived in Germany, or if you've been, I lived in Europe and Holland for 6 years, but it's, it takes time. Like they will be cordial, but they won't be open and friendly until all of a sudden you're a friend. And once you're in that circle, you're in. Like it's different. Whereas Americans are much more fluid about relationships. Like all of this impacts on how you interact with each other. And damn it, I think it's a good business idea. We should do this as a business. We'd have a VR training, cultural training. I like it.
It's a strong idea just because of how how VR just it allows you
To
to,
practice and to
well,
be
to
aware.
practice, to physically practice instead of it just being words on a page.
Yeah,
The
to be
way
aware.
that you, yeah, the
Be
way that
aware.
you could actually you live it,
Like train
and
people.
you
It's
retain it.
training, right? I mean, that's what VR is so great for. It's training. Like you walk up to a bunch of Italians in Piazza Duomo, and like how does it, like you can read the subtle signals that you don't read if you don't aren't
Right.
aware of it.
So do we release this episode now, or do we actually keep this for ourselves?
I've
'Cause-
had VCs say to me, ideas are a dime a dozen. It's doing
right.
it
Yeah,
different.
it's actually pulling the trigger. But that is a hell of an idea. It
It is
really
a
is a
good
hell.
idea, actually.
And I haven't heard of anyone actually
I
doing that,
haven't
which is
either, and it's
crazy.
something we obviously both care about. I
Yeah.
know I do.
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, I've traveled enough to understand the there's a barrier there. Like, there's a cultural difference barrier that
There's a
we have.
misunderstanding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a misunderstanding. Um it's not I hate you because you're from. It's
Yeah.
literally a this is the way that I have literally, since the day I was born,
Right.
been groomed to interact with the world, kind of thing. And because of my culture, I truly just don't understand where you're coming from.
Right. Absolutely.
And if you have the empathy to actually to basically take a little bit of time to understand that, um, I think it would help the world get along a hell of a lot better. Yeah, this is the more we talk about this, the more that is just it's a hell of an idea, Linda.
It is a good idea. I mean, yeah, yeah, I've been international my whole. I mean, I went to camp in Switzerland when I was young, a couple years, and my roommates were from Greece, Japan, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, America. I had one American there, and I mean, I shared a room with 5 other girls, for summers,
You're
each one
global.
from another place, and like I grew up being really in the middle of lots of different cultures, so it's something I obviously care about and being more culturally flexible. But I think it's a great idea because people need to learn how to interact. I think you're right.
Okay, so for the folks that actually listen to this entire episode and get to the end of this, comment on what we're talking about right now on
Yeah,
the VR interaction and being able to use, excuse me, virtual spaces, even augmented reality spaces, for
yeah,
a level or a level of cultural understanding and, um, not it's not just about the vocal side of things at that point. It's mannerisms and, it's spatial issues and just how we could actually utilize VR and X and AR to bridge that gap. Or I don't necessarily know whether we need to bridge the gap or whether we just need to create a larger understanding
yeah. I
of,
think you're right. I think it's awareness.
yeah, yeah.
I think
I
it's very hard if you've never been outside your own culture to put yourself in the shoes of somebody from somebody else's culture. Like it's very hard to make that switch, I think.
Yeah, we're not going to bridge the gap for several I don't know about millennia, but, I think as this technology evolves over the course of the next couple generations, where you have the younger generations that basically they, from the time they know how to, I mean, like 3-year-olds know more about the back end of Windows 10 than I do at this stage. And 3-year-olds 4 or 5 generations from now more than likely will have an intrinsic understanding of XR, whether it be AR, VR, whatever that technology, however the technology evolves. They will literally have an understanding of it from the womb, and that's when I
Yeah,
think
I
we
think it'll
have
be
the
the
ability to actually see a global melding, as far as the cultural differences may be shrinking a little bit, or
yeah,
just integrating to a larger scale global tribe that we were talking about earlier.
yeah. It's
Um,
interesting though in VR. Don't you think that immersive tech is developing its own norms, its own cultural
yeah,
norms, versus like real life norms?
it has to.
Um, People talk to each other really quickly. You can leave if you want to, like in the middle of a conversation. Like there's norms that are emerging around cultural behavior in spatial computing too, which
Yeah.
is interesting.
I was in a lobby last night in the Quest 2. I was in the Oculus Home,
Mm.
where it's
Yeah.
got like there's a bunch of movie theaters and stuff, and then there's just
Yeah.
courtyard. And there were probably 30 or 40 people in the little room that I was in, and literally everyone, and these were people from all over the world, were like going up to everyone else and going, "Hey, how's it going?" And
Nice.
it is a very low barrier environment.
Yeah, it is.
It seems to be across the board a very low barrier environment. Um,
That's a good idea.
I'm I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued. I think I wanted to go back and talk more about the whole mindfulness and the meditative stuff that's out there, but this
Yeah.
tangented off into, I think, an incredibly meaningful conversation. And rather I mean, we could continue beating this horse for hours, I think, but I think we'll do that off air. But I'm that was an intriguing conversation. I dig it
I
a
think
lot.
yeah, I agree.
Are we
I'm
gonna
trying
we're
to
gonna
find a connection between mindfulness and this. And there might be some actually.
There's a
Relax.
connection. There's a connection. I mean, there's always a connection. If there was a tangent that came off of and went to, then there's a connection. But it
To be
might not
determined.
be it might not be a huge connection, but there's one
Yeah.
there. Um,
I do make left jumps sometimes, lateral
I'm
leap.
really
I
good
know
at
you
like
do too. So the two of us, yeah.
360s,
Yeah.
720s, 1080s.
Yeah.
Some of them are 90
Really,
degree
I had a
turns.
friend in grad school who I used to do projects with and drive her nuts because she was very linear. She went from A to B, B to C, C to D, and I go A, F, green, blah, blah. And it would all end up getting done. It's not that. It's
Yeah.
just my mind goes in a lot of different directions.
Yeah, mine too.
Zero,
I
so
do that for like puzzle solving for, from the business perspective of things.
sure,
It's literally like I see this technology and this technology and this
absolutely.
technology and this goes here and this goes here and yeah, I'm I don't know whether it's a good or a bad thing that
It is
both
what
of
it
us
is.
have that brain.
I think the hardest part is sometimes communicating that in a way that doesn't make you seem like you're disorganized. It's how do you present it in information chunks that make sense so that
That's what
people.
spreadsheets are for,
That's what an MBA
which
helped me do.
right?
So that
I
that
hate
helped me.
spreadsheets, but that's what they're for.
Spreadsheets. I also think yes. I mean, I've been a consultant for a long many years, strategy consulting. So I do a lot of lateral leaps in my work. I just have to be careful with clients sometimes that I
Right?
keep it
Spreadsheets and
controlled.
Slack. Slack is I love Slack. So
You like Slack?
I love it. I love
I
it.
don't like getting ping. I like doing one thing at a time, and it drives me nuts when it's like ping, 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 and then there's Slack, and then there's this, and there's messages, and it's like, just let me do one thing in peace for a couple hours.
There's only 3 of us on the Nemesis Slack, so it works
Oh,
out
that's not
okay.
too bad.
It's not a 300 person company
Yeah,
at
but
this stage of
even
the game.
I don't like to be interrupted, and I don't want to be interrupted. I just like to focus.
Turn the ping off. turn the ping off. Turn the ping off. Put your headset on. Get in Portasia and just float. You'll be fine.
I draw in my case, make
Okay.
avatars, and so we have come full circle.
And you need to make me an avatar because right now my avatar in VR chat
That's
is
the one.
it's a mech. I'm a mech with
Yay!
a bunny rabbit.
I
And
love that. I've seen that, and I love it. And that's what made me have avatar envy, because I was like, why do I look like some middle-aged lady driving a Volvo with a golden retriever? No. So that does not reflect my personality at all. So
okay, and on that note, we've come full circle, and we're going to close down this episode, and we're going to leave a bunch of stuff for the next episode, which will be in a week from now. So
yeah,
if you're enjoying these conversations, and they are somewhat stream of consciousness, and that's what you're going to get from us. I mean,
yeah.
do not expect a linear conversation. It's not
Try
going
it.
to
It'd be
happen.
interesting.
Yeah, that would be boring in our minds, and if we're not having fun with this, then you're not going to have fun with this. So we're going to have fun with this.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, y'all. Appreciate it. This one's definitely going to be released. I'm going to release episode 0 too, because she gave me permission at the beginning of this to do it.
Go ahead.
You're going to be fine. It's going to be good. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. We'll be back next week with more. This is episode 1, I guess, because we're going to call the other one episode 0.
1B.
Yeah. So thanks. Appreciate it, y'all. Bye.
Thanks for
We're gonna
listening. Bye
we're gonna
bye.
hang up that right now, but we're not really gonna hang up. We're just gonna stop talking to y'all.